Today we're going to talk about mixed fraction word problems. So these word problems could be addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division. So we're going to look at mixed fraction word problems. So today all we're going to do is look at word problems and identify what operation to use. And tomorrow's video will be about how to actually solve them, reviewing steps for addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So today we're going to use the piece of paper that we've already put into our notebooks. It gives us action words, what action words mean addition, what action words mean subtraction, multiplication, and division. We may add a few to our list as we're going through word problems and we find more action words. We're also going to come up with 3 common steps if you're not sure what to do. So I'm going to leave at the top of my paper 3 tips or helpful steps in order to solve or identify what operation to use. So we're going to go through some word problems, and so on your notes today you do not need to copy down the word problems, but tomorrow we're going to use the same word problems. So let's identify them by the number of the problem. So let's see what we're starting with here. Margaret has 2 1/3 cups of sugar. I'm picturing what that looks like. She probably has a bowl of sugar and she's used a cup measuring spoon and a 1/3 cup measuring spoon. She's poured in 2 1/3. She's using 1/4 to make cookies. How much sugar will she have left? My action word, I know right away how much does she have left. There is my action word. If I look over at my paper that tells me my clues, here's my clue. How many are left? So I know left tells me that I'm going to subtract. So for number 1, that problem was going to be 2 1/3 minus 1 1/4. 2 1/3 minus 1 1/4. That was the operation that I was going to use. So my first tip would be look for key, or we have been calling them all year, action words. Look for those key or action words. And this piece of paper inside of your notebook could help you use as a reference if you need to, before you memorize them, if you need to go back and refer to. Let's move on to our second word problem. Russell spent 1/3 of his allowance. So his parents give him money every week, maybe for jobs that he does around the house, and he's going to use part of it, 1/3 of it, to go to the movies. He wants to buy a new video game that will cost him another half of his allowance. So already I'm seeing that he's using part of it to go to the movies and part of it to buy a video game. If he buys the game, how much of his allowance will he have spent? It's not asking me how much is left, he's asking me how much he has spent. So I have 2 parts that I'm going to have to add together. So I know this one is going to be 1/3 plus 1/2. So problem 2 was 1/3 plus 1/2. How did I know that? I knew that because I know that word. How much did he spend? So maybe they would have added another word altogether. That would have been a good clue for me. So I still used my first tip. I looked for those key or action words. Sam has, let's move on. Sam has 3 1/8 acres of land. He planted potatoes on 2 2/3 of the land. He wants to plant corn. How much land does he have left? I'm going to give you a moment, and I would like you on your notebook to copy down what you think this problem would be. What operation, and we'll check back in to see if you're correct. If you have written or identified the word have left, that would be your action word. Something having left would be subtraction. So I'm going to write down that problem. That was 3 3 1/8 minus 2 2/3. So let's move on to number 4. I bought 80 pounds of spaghetti to share equally between 7 families. About how many pounds of spaghetti will each family receive? I would like you to identify the action word that's going to tell you what to do. If you identified share, you are exactly right. Now this is we need to review. We've done lessons in the past of what that means to share, which one's going to go first. Am I sharing families? No, I cannot cut people up. I'm sharing the spaghetti. This is what's going to go first. So I'm going to do 80 shared or divided with 7 families. Divided by my 7 families. Let's look at number 5. I have 70 feet of rope that I need to share equally between 11 people. So my second clue here, have we seen a problem that's just like this? Yes. This problem up here, they gave us an amount and they told us to share it among people. This problem is very similar to this one because I have an amount, a total to begin with, and I'm sharing it among people. So if I knew this one was division, this one must also be division. How many feet of rope will each person receive? So my problem here was 70 divided by 11. So my second tip or clue to help you figure out what to do with word problems is to look for similar problems. So ask yourself, is this problem just like another I have seen before? So there's only so many word problems that they can make in the world, and so they just use different numbers or different items or different people that we're sharing with, or different things that we're adding together or subtracting or taking parts of. So if you can look at, see what problem have you seen before that looks just like it, it can help you identify what to do. Let's move on. Mom made a pizza. There's only 1/4 of the pizza left. Mom and her friend Sally are going to share the remaining pizza evenly. How much of the pizza will each of them get? I would like you to write this one down in your notes. This is just like one we've done before. If you wrote down 1/4 sharing with Mom and Sally, you were exactly right. Number 6 should be 1/4 Mom and Sally make 2 people. So my third clue for you, if you were not sure what to do there, I could draw a picture. I had 1/4 of a pizza, but I know in fractions that drawing circles doesn't help us very much. So I'm going to go back and draw a rectangle. And if I have 1/4 of a pizza, but I have to share that among 2 people, oh, I'm going to give this to Mom, and I'm going to give this to Sally. I know I have to cut this up. Cutting up means I have to divide. So my third clue for you is to draw a picture. My third tip is to draw a picture of the situation. If you do not know what you're supposed to do, draw a picture to figure it out. So draw a picture of that situation. We're going to move on and practice a few more. We're going to use these same 3 tips. Look for the action words. Look for, is it like another problem that I've done? or draw a picture to help you figure it out. So these, let's solve, pause, and then come back together. Kristen had 1/3 yards of fabric. She'll need to divide the fabric into 3 even pieces. Now that you've paused and solved on your own, so Kristen has 1/3 yards of fabric. She needs to divide, there was my action word, into 3 pieces. So I should have done 1/3 divided by 3. One-third divided by 3. Let's move on to 8. I'm going to read the problem. You pause it, identify what you should do, and then play the video again. George and Henry each made a bowl of punch. George used 3 times as much lemonade as Henry did. If Henry uses 2½ cups of lemonade, how many cups did George use? Pause it, identify the operation to use, and write down your problem. Okay, your action word should have been times as much. Let's see if that's written on our list over here for multiplication. Times, right here. That was our clue. So we should have written 2½ times 3. Or you could have written 3 times 2½. Let's move on to problem 9. I'll read the problem, pause, and then let's come back together. Teresa is baking blueberry pies to sell at her bakery. She starts with 3½ cartons of blueberries, of which she uses half for the first batch of pies. We have a typo here. How many cartons of blueberries does Tessa use for the first batch of pies? Go ahead and pause. Solve it using one of those 3 steps to identify what operation to use. Okay. The strategy that I would have used is I would have drawn a picture. She has 3½ cartons of blueberries. She has 3½ cartons of blueberries. So I would have drawn a picture of what that looks like. So these have all little blueberries inside. So of which she uses half. So she's using half of all of this. So if I'm using half of it, that means I'm going to multiply, or I could cut it up into 2. So I'm multiplying by a half. It's like I'm taking the area. This looks like an area word problem that I've done before when I take a half of 3½ So this told me that it was multiplication. Some of you may have been thinking that this was division. So for this problem, I'm going to write 2 different operations. I could have done 3½ times a half, because it's like an area problem. I'm taking half of 3½. Or I could have done 3½ and divided that by 2, because I'm splitting it in half. Either one would be correct. Let's look at the 10th problem. You stop and pause. Well, last week a chocolate shop sold 3½ ounces of white chocolate. It sold 3 1/4 times as much milk chocolate as white chocolate. How many ounces of milk chocolate did the shop sell? Go ahead and pause the video. And let's identify the action word. If you selected times as much as your action word, and you wrote down 3 1/4 times 3 1/4, you were exactly right. We used action word step 1 to help us figure that out. My dad was painting our living room. He started with 7/10 of a can of paint. He used 1/4 of the can. How much paint did he have left? Pause, solve on your own, and let's come back. If you identified that he started with 7/10 and he used 1/4, your action word should have been, how much did he have left? Or you could have looked at he used that part up. So this should have been subtraction. So for number 11, we should have written 7/10 minus 1/4. And you are exactly right. Look at number 12. My mom makes healthy brownies. She uses 1 2/3 cups of white flour, 2 1/8 cup of wheat flour. How much flour does she use to make brownies? Pause. Identify what operation to use and what strategy you're going to use to figure that out. The strategy that I might have used is look back at a similar problem. I remember that we did a problem very similar to this before. We said that he was going to use 1/3 of it to go to the movies and 1/2 of it to buy a video game. How much of it will he have spent? That's very similar with how much are they going to use. They gave us 2 different objects and they said how much. So that was an addition problem before. So for number 12, if you did 1 2/3 plus 2 1/8, you were exactly right. It was addition. 13. A factory puts 1 1/2 gallons of vinegar into each batch of salad dressing. How many gallons of vinegar will be used in 4 batches? Use a strategy that we've taken notes on and discussed and figure out what to do and what your equation might be. If you use the strategy of draw a picture, that's exactly what I would have done. So I had 1 1/2 gallons of vinegar to make a batch of salad dressing. Well, they said I needed to do 4 of them. So I'm going to do the same thing repeatedly 4 times. When I do something repeatedly, that means multiplication. Drawing a picture of the situation would have helped me out. I needed to repeat this 4 times. Now, could I have added these together? Yes, I could have. But I'm going to write it as a multiplication problem. 1 1/2 times 4. We have one last problem. Yesterday, Larry's Burger Bar went through 2 1/3 bottles of ketchup. If they used 3 times as much mustard as ketchup, how many bottles of mustard they go through? Identify what operation you're going to use and what strategy you use to figure that out. Okay, I would have used look back at another problem. We have another problem that we use these same words. Let me go back and find it. Let's buy video, share. Much. There it was, right here, number 10. They sold 3 1/4 times as much. And for number 10, we did multiplication. So our clue here, 2 1/3 bottles, if they use 3 times as much, that is exactly the same problem, just with a little bit different situation. So I'm going to write that as 2 1/3 times 3. As a review, we looked at 3 different strategies to help us figure out what operation to use in a word problem. We looked for those key or action words, and you have notes in your notebook to help you with that. 2, is this problem just like another one I've seen before? Connect your problem to a previous one. 3, draw a picture of the situation to help you figure out what operation to do. If you are stuck, draw it out.